Well, I just wrote a note to Christine saying that there has to be a warning if they're going to show videos like that before I have to start. It takes a minute. Thank you guys all very much for that. That was quite a beautiful gift. So apparently you guys want to know a little bit about WILDFIT 3. Is that what's going on here? You guys want to know a bit about that? A little bit? All right. So I'm going to share some things with you about it, and then I'm going to open you guys up to questions, that you might have, because I can't anticipate. Well, let me put it this way: there's a lot going into it, and I want to give you enough of an overview without going too much into the details. So I'm going to give you some background on the development of WILDFIT, some of which you guys know, and some of which you don't know, or you may not know. But the very first WILDFIT classes were done without videos, without any pre-recorded videos. So I basically just showed up and I revealed everything in the moment, and took the first 8 clients through the program that way. And it worked really well. So I did it again and I did it again. But soon I realized that it wasn't very leverageable that way, that I found that my role with the clients fell into 2 categories. There was the education component, and then there was the, say, coaching, mentorship, accountability component. And while there is some overlap there were some distinct differences. And so that's when I made the decision to go into the studio and record the education components of the program so that I could focus on the fine-tuning, the psychological components with people. And so, we might now call that WILDFIT 1.0. I don't think any of you saw those initial videos because it's been a long time since we replaced them. Maybe there's a couple. Okay, Petra. Sorry, Petra. I forgot. Okay, geez, Gloria. All right, a few of you. I'm working to get one of those pens for Men in Black to erase everybody's memory who saw those first videos, because that's a long time ago. Bing! It's gone from your memory. Then we got ready to do our first major joint venture launches, and I decided to go into the studio. Actually, we had done our first major joint venture launches, and in our very first Mindvalley class was actually with the WILDFIT 1.0 tapes. They're not that old, but videos. And then that's when we decided to partner up with Mindvalley, and we collaborated on the creation of what we would now think of the current WILDFIT, or what I think of it as WILDFIT 2.0. But I can tell you a little bit about the way that design process worked. Is that I had been collecting weekly notes from all the classes that I'd been coaching at that point in time, particularly paying attention to help desk questions that had been coming in on a week-by-week basis. And what that enabled me to do was to find the holes. Where were there mistakes? Where were there errors? Or where were there omissions? Why did we keep getting this question over and over again? Because it must mean that we didn't say it, or we didn't say it enough times. And so we collected all that information and refined the program. And we did it in a kind of cool way. What I did, as many of you know, is I recorded the frequently asked questions as a bonus bit of content, but I did that before I recorded each section so they'd be fresh in my mind. So what it meant was that clients immediately started getting a more, wholesome version of the program, where they weren't just hearing something once or twice, but they were getting a repetitive layer of it. And I can tell you that the help desk traffic dropped dramatically, even though our client volume increased dramatically at the same time. We went from a few hundred clients a year to several thousand clients a year, and yet help desk traffic went down, and so it was a success. So as I started preparing in for WILDFIT 3.0, the very first thing I started working on is what I might now call a combination of mistakes I don't know, mistakes, or also, just optimizations, things that I learned that I'd want to do differently in the program. And so I have a list of those things, and you guys are aware of some of those things, and I'll give you some examples. I plan to underscore a lot more that the Alkitizer should not become a lifestyle for everybody. I want to be much more clear with people about the role of the Alkitizer, because I still bump into people in airports that tell me that it's been 5 years and they're still having a daily Alkitizer. And I'm like, oh my God, nobody told you to do that. Only nobody told them not to do that. And so there's going to be some adjustments in the way that's done. There's going to be some adjustments in the way fruit is discussed, because bear in mind how much the world has changed in 10 years, is that 10 years ago, there was basically nobody avoiding sugar. You know, now there are people who are actively trying to avoid sugar. And so if you have a client coming into the program that already has really handled their relationship with sugar, matter of fact, a very good example, I had a client who did our 7 days to, 7 days to quit sugar program through Mind Valley, and they'd done it a year before. And so by the time they did WildFit, they already had a pretty good relationship with sugar. That type of person does not need to double up on fruit in those first couple, in that first couple of weeks where we're adding in fruit. Remember that the role of fruit there is like a methadone to the heroin. It's designed to replace their big sugar intake. So we're going to address, there are little things like that I want to address in a little bit more detail. There's a major gaffe in the program before where I made some comment about, protein reduction and not eating all that much meat. And I'm going to delete that from everybody's memory and from the new program. Of course, the new program will continue to support, people who want to go through the program in a vegan way or people who want to go through it in a carnivore way. But those are some of the sort of general course corrections. And by the way, if there are ones that you think that we might not know about, you should definitely make sure that Christine is aware of them. We've been collecting your notes, but if you have any others, you should make sure we're aware of them. What I don't want to hear from you in February is that you had an idea that you didn't share. That's what I don't want to hear. But then I want to talk a little bit more about program structure. One of the key changes, or the biggest change, aside from modernization and me doing videos where I have gray hair instead of not having gray hair, the biggest change really is going to be structural, and that's going to have a lot to do with client intake. So when a client comes in to the program and they answer their intake questionnaire, that intake questionnaire is going to customize their WildFit journey to some degree. So for example, you can already see the beginnings of this now. Like if somebody is type 2 diabetic, then they can activate the type 2 diabetic track, right? It's still the WildFit challenge, but there's this offshoot where they get the extra content. Think in those terms, but with other things. Like for example, if you're not a smoker, you don't need to see the nicotine tobacco video. It's not important to you. If you don't have if you don't have an issue with coffee and caffeine, we don't really need to discuss that a great deal with you. And so as people go through and indicate the various background information about where they're at, it will activate or turn on or turn off individual videos or even program tracks that are more related to their particular situation. And so that's going to be a significant change, because in one sense, what it'll do is it'll reduce the amount of content that an individual person needs to wade their way through to get their information. And it'll also customize the experience for the client a great deal more, which I think will generally improve the overall client experience a great deal. Another component to it is, and this is an interesting issue around esoterics. I know some of you have seen me speak live and you hear me kind of joke about the crystals and incense world versus the practical reality world. And I try to pretend that I live more in the practical reality world, but the fact is I'm wearing crystals and I was burning incense last night. And I meditate every day and I live with a foot in each camp. I think sometimes I get lured over to the practical world. And that's when life gets harder for me. When I remember to stay in the spiritual world, life is easier, interestingly enough. And so one of the things that we're going to address a bit more in this version is the spiritual component to transformation. So I'll give you an example. Do you guys believe that if you are eating something and you believe it to be good for you, that makes that thing better for you? Do you believe that? Do you think that's a good thing? Yeah. And equally, if you eat something and you believe that thing to be bad for you, then you're making the badness of that maybe even worse than it might otherwise be. I believe that. Now, I can't go and scientifically prove that to you. I mean, we could do some kinesiology and muscle testing and that kind of stuff, but that's right at the very edge of, what you might call science, right? It's out there. It's in the Joe Dispenza camp, which I love. And what I want to do is put to you that it appears that the version of life that we are living in is about density and it is about physical, practical things. So if I were to put a glass of, or if I were to put an orange, a beautiful vitamin C rich orange in front of a child, and told them how good it was for them, but I put arsenic in the orange, it's still going to kill the child. I don't care how much they believe that it's good. Now, I will say at another level, if you are a transcended being that lives in a cave somewhere in India and you don't need to eat food and you can actually levitate your body, maybe you can eat that orange with the arsenic, but then you have decided not to play the physical game that we're playing here on Earth. That, they say that when the monk reaches enlightenment, he laughs. You know why? Because he realizes that enlightenment isn't actually the goal. Living in it with cravings and feelings and music and orgasms and all that stuff is part of life. And transcending beyond it is pointless. That's death. Why reach death early, right? And so we are here to have physical experiences. And so within the construct of physical experiences, there are realities. And if you eat an orange, believing it to be good for you and it's full of poison, it's going to hurt you. It's just how it is. But I want to put to you another version, and that is that if you eat a piece of chocolate cake and you believe it to be bad for you, you're going to multiply the badness. You're going to make it even worse. And so what I would suggest to you is that we need to apply both principles. We need to apply the principles of vibration, the principles of say, esoteric spiritual existence and practical reality. And so there will be more of that in this program, in the program, the more of that spiritual connection to food and so on. And I think that the time is right for that to be there. When I first launched WILDFIT, I was tempted to do that, but I chose to stay with the more practical version. In this case, we'll be bringing this more sort of esoteric version, and included in that, meditations. I think it's a major screw up that we didn't offer meditations with WILDFIT from the very beginning. Now, we have started introducing some meditations. How many of you guys have done any of the meditations that we've got currently? Who's done some of those? We haven't broadly released them, but they've been released with certain things. So you might have had access to them and you might not have yet. This is a sort of trialing of things. In WILDFIT 3.0, there will be meditations, and I cannot tell you right now 100% the way they're going to be, but this is my current thinking. There will be meditations for specific issues. Like if somebody has a cravings issue, there will be say a cravings meditation. If somebody has a sleep issue, there'll be a sleeping meditation. But I'm also contemplating program-centric meditations. And this is a big undertaking and it's not a promise, but I'm looking at the idea of actually having a weekly specific meditation where there's a week one meditation that is anchoring in. And I'll tell you the structure of those and why I'm likely to do them is that at my live events, I very often close off the days with a guided meditation that recaps the content from the day. And our clients always tell us it's one of their favorite parts of the program. It's like they get to hear the whole day again into their subconscious. And so I'm inclined to include that with the new version of WILDFIT so that they will have a week one meditation, a week two meditation, and so on. I believe that we're going to be doing that. So these are the core shifts in the program. What I can tell you is that the efficacy of WILDFIT has been outstanding. There's no question about that. I mean, you guys saw in the videos, you see with your clients, you hear the testimonials, and of course, each one of you is your own testimonial to that. And I believe that what's going to happen is we're going to see in WILDFIT 3.0, we're going to see an uptick of efficacy of at least sort of 30% or something like that. The stick level will go up. The compliance level, what I mean is that, where we don't have a very high fall off rate compared to most digital programming, but the fact is that as we grow and we go to a broader audience, that is harder to do. I'll give you a good example. One of our current rollouts involves, we have people enrolled in WILDFIT right now that have come to us through insurance companies in the United States. So these are people who didn't come to us through Mind Valley, where they were already open to personal development and they knew who Wayne Dyer was and all that kind of stuff. These are people who drive taxis and they live their normal lives. And so that means that we're going to probably see a little bit of a fall off, especially when people come in through insurance programs where maybe they've been sponsored by their companies or whatever the case might be. So I now have to work on making the program even stickier to counterbalance for that. And so I think that we're going to see an increase in stick rates among our normal demographic of clients. And we're going to do everything we can to prevent that from lowering in, say, general public clients. And I think we're going to see an increase in efficacy because simply adding the esoteric, never mind the customizations, but simply adding meditations and the esoteric to it, I think that we're going to embed more deeply into people's subconscious. One other little fun thing, this comes out of WildFit, the WildFit Way, and some of you already know this, but I'll recap it, that the WildFit Way is the second book that I contracted with Hay House. Post-Diabetic is the first, and the WildFit Way is the second one. I turned the manuscript over to Hay House a few weeks ago now. But one thing that's in the new book, which I think you guys are going to love, and some of you have seen a little sneak preview, but it's the food personalities. So we have a card deck that we've developed, and I'm thinking that we'll probably put that to print so you guys can get them. But it's like you have the food angel, and then you have 14 food devils. You've got the 6 hungers and the sugar monster. And the 14 devils are, I mean, when you do get to see them on the card deck, you'll see that they have a personality. You've heard me speaking about these things to some degree already. You've heard me refer to the teenager, the drug dealer. You've heard me refer to them, but now we've distilled them down into the 14 most common versions. There's a little overlap with them here and there, but you'll see. But the idea here is to make them super fun. And I want to share with you the story that inspired me to do this. And that is that years ago, we had a woman who did the program, Scottish woman living in Iceland. And I was in Iceland doing a speech, and she came along, she did WildFit and so on. And I bumped into her later, and she told me that one of her children has Prader-Willi. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Prader-Willi, it is a very unfortunate genetic condition that means that the child has no appetite control. In fact, has an unsatisfiable appetite. So the prognosis for a child like that is pretty bad. Basically, by the time they're 12 years old, they have to be in restraints or special care because they're so strong that their parents can't keep them away from the fridge. They're almost always type 2 diabetic before they're in their teens, and they don't usually live past their teens. It's a pretty tough life. And anyway, this woman was told that her child would never lose weight. Like, that's just not part of their journey. They only ever gain weight until they die. And she contacted us to say that her child had lost 20 some odd pounds, and the doctors were blown away, and this is not possible, and so on. And I asked her what happened, and she goes, well, you happened. And I go, okay, thanks. But I mean, what really happened? And she said, well, he drew out the food angel and the food devil, and he drew out the sugar monster, and he put them on the fridge. And whenever he went up to the fridge with one of his cravings, he would talk to them. He would talk to them. And he would bring himself a Frankel moment. He would bring himself consciousness and then not go and eat. It just blew me away. And ever since then, I've wanted us to do that. And so it will be in the WildFit Way, but it'll also be a key component to the WildFit 3.0 journey, is that we will go through those food devils and people will learn them. And I'll tell you what's really neat about them is that when you learn the food devils, it really helps you to spot the patterns. It'll help you as a coach to spot the pattern in your clients. It'll help your clients to spot the patterns and diffuse them. So they're super fun. And by the way, as a little sneak preview, I've recorded videos of them, and they will be going out on my Instagram feed in early November. So you'll actually get to meet the 14 food devils. We didn't do the hungers and the rest of them yet, but the 14 food devils are there. You'll get to see them. They have imagery. You'll get to hear a little bit about them. And so keep an eye. I think November 6th, they go out on my Instagram. So check that out. So that is your very high level overview of 3.0. What I now want to do is open this to you to, ask questions. And here's the deal. I want you to ask questions so that you can get clear about what the objectives are and what you think we're going to do. And maybe your questions will give birth to ideas of things that need to be represented there. So I open the floor. I open the floor to you guys, and I have to tell you, I have to plane to catch. So I've got about maybe 15 minutes, and then I got to run. So jump in. Oh, look, no questions, Christine. We can go. All right. Harry. Harry's always there to kick it off for us. Harry, I'll see you in a couple of days.
Yes, I'm super excited for the Speaking Academy. It's gonna be a fun week. I'm super excited. I'm very excited about WILDFIT 3.0. And for me, I don't know if there are more technical questions, but I understand you have in the past you have mentioned about that you will also bring in the natural eating, natural nutritional rhythms.
You're absolutely right. I'm sorry, you're totally right. We will be introducing properly in there something that we're calling natural nutritional rhythms or ancestral rhythms. And this will explain why intermittent fasting is a good idea if it's done properly, but it will also talk about things like the frequency with which you eat nuts and when you time your meals and all that kind of stuff. It's in the WildFit Way book, and it'll be in WildFit 3.0. Great question, Harry. Thank you.
the second part, you mentioned recurring tracks. So can we assume that the spring tracks that are currently part of Back to Spring will also be available in WildFit, so that it's not one spring for everybody, but they can choose videos
We
based on
haven't 100% decided that, but that is my inclination. My inclination is that they can choose their spring journey in the new 3.0 rather than waiting till Back to Spring. That has not 100% been decided, but it is that is my inclination.
Okay. And lastly, I understand Christine also mentioned in the chat that there will be a big announcement coming. Like, how certain are we that it will be in January?
Well, you know, Harry, we're at the place where, I mean, we've sold it. Like, it has to be there. And, you know, it's, I mean, you know, my rule about promises. I only make them when I control everything about them. So I'm not going to promise you that that's the case. I don't, but I have a filming schedule for it. I have the syntax for it. I'm working on it. It is, I mean, everything short of a promise, short of World War III, I believe that it will be there in January, or for the Q1 launch, whenever the Q1 launch is.
And I still hoping for that you speaking different languages, as you have shown with French. I don't know if that will be part of the beginning of the year, or it's something in the future, but I'm also looking forward
I
to
am
that.
not on that. That's not my thought process at the moment. And so I don't know when that'll happen, but I'll tell you that it'll be much easier to do than it ever was before. You know, it's like the languages that we got now were done by Mindvalley, and I can tell you that it costs them hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it. And of course, with AI now, we'll be able to make language versions much more easily than ever before, with lip syncing and all that kind of stuff. But I doubt very seriously that we'll be hitting Q1 with that.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, you have Lotta. Oh, sorry.
Hi.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Hi.
I can hear you.
Harry actually started my question because I have a lot of French people who don't speak English. So would that mean that they will just do the original program where you still have the French language?
Christine, are you there? Angela, do we have
Yes,
Christine?
I'm here. Sorry.
Okay. I don't know what the answer to this is. I mean, I imagine the idea will be to run 3.0 for English and still let people have language access to the original version.
Correct. And we're doing our best, like we did with 7 days, to at least have the written transcripts vetted by then. It just won't be audio.
Well, that's already a great thing, yeah. Because I have done quite a lot of translations. And in between, you guys have done a lot of translations as it is. So that's a great thing. So if there is anything we can prepare, would you be willing to give it to us ahead of time to do it?
Yes, and you're usually on our list for translation vetting. So don't worry, we'll be knocking on your door soon.
Okay, thank you.
Also, guys, I mean, some of you are paying attention a lot to AI and some of you less so. I can tell you right now, it is so much easier and cost effective to do it now. I have uploaded videos of myself and it converts it to Spanish with my mouth moving to the Spanish. I've had people write to me on Instagram and go, "Hello, Eric, I didn't realize you spoke Spanish or French," because I've done both. So I suspect that the translation this time will be much easier, much less expensive, and much more accurate.
Hey, you have Gina.
Hi, this is so cool. I'm really excited about all of this. Harry asked most of my questions, but I did want to say you've got a lot of talented coaches here that could help do a bunch of those things that you want to do, and we would like to help. I think I speak for most of us, so I'm just
okay, Gina. So I need that to be more specific, and here's what I mean by that. As I've been going through the syntax, I'm really clear about what I need to record, but I do think that there really could be a space for, let's say, addendum videos where coaches come in and do, you know, and to be fair, I want to be clear, this would likely be master coaches and more specifically master coaches that had been through Speaking Academy. But the, you know, or that had that presentation skill already, you know, at that level. But I do think that there is a scope for that type of thing to be included in the program. And I think that the way to handle that, and Christine, maybe the idea here, it might be worth setting up, say, like a type form where if a coach wants to submit a module or something like that, or, and it could be anything from a cooking lesson to something else. I am up for that type of thing to be considered for it, but I'm not going to convolute the 3.0 launch in order to squeeze that in. It would be bolting on if it really made sense, and maybe later, but I'm certainly up for the conversation.
Yes, and coaches who are familiar with this process, the form will look just like the elective call form.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good to see you.
Thanks, Eric. This is exciting. I can't wait to see what comes.
I am so excited too.
Thank you.
Okay, you have Nomi.
Yeah,
I'm
hi.
just gonna say, Merle, yes, there will be more breathing work than simple 5x5. There will be more breath work. Absolutely, yes. Thank you. Good question.
Yeah.
Newman, go ahead.
Hi, it's been a while, so good to see you again.
Nice to see you.
You talked about customizing tracks. Can you explain a bit more about that, and how does that impact us? Do we have access to all the new tracks then, even if I haven't
Okay.
done the diabetic track, for instance?
In terms of access, I'll leave that for Christine to figure out how she administers that, like how coaches get access to their tracks. Clearly, you'll need to have access if your clients are going through those tracks. So we'll figure that out, but I don't want to make a policy decision about that right here. But let me describe tracks. I would say that there are, in a sense, 3 types of tracks. There is a program track, and that is to say somebody has indicated that they're pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic, and that would activate for them or offer for them the post-diabetic track. Those tracks might be a premium thing. They might have to pay additionally for that, and because that's currently the model. So somebody indicates they're type 2 diabetic, it might come along and say, well, that's an X add-on for that. It might not be. I don't know what the policy for that will be just yet. But so that's a major track, a program track. Then you might have a minor track, and a minor track would be something like optional fasting. So if you're going to undertake the 3-day fast, you would say that you are going to do that, in which case you would open up the videos that guided you through the 3-day fast. If you weren't doing that, you won't see those videos. And then there would be individual video tracks. And that is to say, you've indicated a curiosity or an issue or what have you in a particular area. And so now there's a video track for you there. As an example, somebody's indicated that they smoke or use snooze or vape. Then they might then, as a result, activate a video or a video series specifically related to smoking, vaping, and nicotine and what have you.
Okay.
That makes
Is
sense?
this, yeah, as you know, we bring in fasting quite late in the program. Are these questions coming along, when they sign up, or is this coming
Great question.
later on?
Both. So,
Okay.
so in the case of type 2 diabetes, it would be in the intake form. Right away, we would know that. In the case of the fast, they would likely, the way that would happen, the mechanics of that is that they would get an email and eventually app integration, but they would get an email, and the email would say, hey, you heard from the coach today or from Eric's video that there's an optional winter fast. Would you like to participate? If they hit yes, it'll activate that track.
Okay. That's it for now. I'm looking forward to hearing more about this later on. One more question. I think somebody asked that in the chat as well. Is this something that will be available for the old clients as well?
Again, that's a policy question, so I can't really help with that. I imagine, and this is an imagination and not a commitment, but my imagining is that graduates will have a graduate pricing structure to get into that program. For example, in the last launch, we did a bonus for those people that they could actually get it automatically. So, but for people who did not avail themselves of that, I imagine, and Christine could deal with this, and I'm not going to ask her to do it now because their policy things require thought. But I imagine that there will be a graduate pricing structure that will allow them to do that.
Great, thank you.
Same thing with like or a living WILDFIT pricing structure. Like there will be a way of rewarding or recognizing past clients.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, you have Joey.
Hello, Joe.
For the recording, will you do that in the same way as you've done some of the previous recordings with some behind the scene people active, or not for this one?
What do you mean behind the scene people?
That some of the coaches can be like online in a Zoom while you're doing the recordings?
I don't know the answer to that right now. We haven't really thought that through. I can tell you that on one level, I really love doing that because it creates a live environment for me, but it also adds a bunch of technological, like it adds a bunch of extra thought process, which is not ideal for a production like that. So I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. Right now, and by the way, Christine, do we even know where I'm filming?
Yes, we do.
Where am I
In the
filming?
United States.
Okay. So, one thing that I might be open to, rather than like trying to open up a large live screening, live streaming thing, I might be open to inviting a small handful of people who want to come to the filming, but that's a might. Don't write to the help desk and ask us to do that. I'm saying I'm open to. I do like to have a little bit of live energy and stuff like that. We'll give some thought to that, but it hasn't been. Nothing about that's been decided.
Cool.
You're welcome. And by the way, Joey, I mean, at the minimum, we will do some of that. Like what I mean by that is I will likely do some Instagram broadcasting and that kind of stuff, just generally, because it's good for PR and that kind of stuff. What I'm just not committing to is opening a live stream into the audience, into the studio. Who's next?
Okay, you have Leanne.
Okay, guys, these are the last three. No more raising your hand because I've got to go catch a plane. Leanne, go ahead.
Yeah, just quick. This is fantastic. I've been building some excitement with my alumni already, telling them that we're getting the big reveal today. I'm encouraging all of them, plus myself, to take it as soon as it's available. But I am also scheduling some newbies who will be coming into the system, which I would prefer to run through the old program. And I'm going to probably be doing it in February. Will that still be available for me to do that one?
Policy answer, you're going to talk to Christine on that. I would not imagine so, but I imagine that once we launch the new one, the old one will be archived, except for the other languages. But I'll leave Christine to deal with that.
Okay.
Leanne, I can answer your question in a voice note after this call. We know the answer to that.
Okay, fabulous, Christine. Thanks.
Okay, you have Lori.
Laura, I got to tell you, if I'd met you back in my dating world and your last name was Moody, that would have been a red flag for me. I've had enough Moody. But the weirdest thing is, you don't strike me as being the least bit Moody.
It's not my real last name, right?
Oh, it's adopted. There you go. By the way, do you have a Moody?
Do I have a Moody? Yeah,
one of Kirsty's.
No, but I've been wanting one for that reason. So can you hook me up?
I'll tell you guys what. I'll talk to Kirsty about doing like a WildFit 3.0 special edition Moody if enough of you guys want one.
Yes, please.
Guys, rile up enough activity that because she has like fabric costs and all that kind of stuff. So it only makes sense if there's like 25 or 30 of them. So if you guys can make it happen, I'll ask her to do it.
I will probably be the most the one who purchases the most since it's my last name. But anyway, quick question. Will you be addressing any topics on Ozempic and that type of thing during these calls? Because during the new program, which I'm super excited about anyway, but is any of that going to come into the conversation more?
Okay. Definitely at the marketing end.
Okay.
Like, we will definitely be doing more of that at the marketing end. We view that the Ozempic situation creates some interesting opportunities for us. People who want to avoid it, people who want to use it and get better results, and people who want to get off it. And the people who want to get off it list is growing very quickly by the day. So at the front end, we'll definitely be addressing it. In terms of how it's addressed in the program, the likelihood is that it will be addressed as a track. And what I mean by that is not a master track, but more along the lines of if they indicate that they're taking Ozempic, then there will be some videos that are specific to them, maybe only one or two, because it's not that big a conversation. I mean, the bottom line is you take anybody who's on Ozempic and run them through WildFit, they're going to get phenomenally better results from the Ozempic, and they won't need to stay on it at the end. I still wouldn't recommend they do it, but if you're going to do it, the best way to do it is to do it alongside WildFit. So likely it's something along those lines.
That's amazing. That's going to be so helpful. And just really curious, are you shortening any of those longer videos?
I've been looking at the transcripts, and I'm trying to figure out what to do with that. When we did post-diabetic, many of those videos are much shorter.
Yeah.
And you would think that leads to higher retention, except there's something trance-like that happens in storytelling. And I don't know the answer yet, but the goal is to keep them more bite-sized. Absolutely. That is the idea. And one way to do that is that it might be that there are some longer ones that are put adjunct, like, hey, there's a longer video where Eric talks about this thing and you can go do that. If you go, for example, there's a video of mine on YouTube that Mind Valley published about public speaking a long time ago. And the most common comment you'll see is, I came here for 5 minutes and I somehow stayed for 3 hours to watch, right? Which I think is the most charming comment in the world. What we might want to do is have like sort of side videos, and we might add those over the years as well as new things happen. So the short answer is yes. I don't want the videos to be excessively long. I want them to be as bite-sized as possible.
Awesome. Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, you have Rana.
I swear a fourth hand went up. I swear Michelle snuck in.
Michelle, she'll have to wait. You said
All
that
right.
Rana was late.
I'll go to Michelle after. Rana, quick, go for it.
Hi, Eric. I'll make this quick. I have 2 questions. Actually, will we as coaches need to make any changes to our current coaching content to align with the new WILDFIT 3.0 structure? Will the information provided in the videos be necessary for both of us and our clients?
Okay, so yes and no. What I mean is the core structure isn't changing a great deal. The same 2 weeks are happening. The same transition to spring is happening. The core structure remains basically the same, but there are some content changes. As a good example, I say in the video, it's a good idea to reduce your protein content from time to time. I was quoting science that isn't valid. I want to delete it. I want to erase it from memory. So, there will be some changes. And again, this is not like a commitment, but it's like an objective. And if it doesn't happen with the Q1, it may well happen afterward. But what I'd actually really like to do this time around is actually have a coaching guide video for each week that is only visible to the coach. So it's like reminding you what week 1 is all about, reminding you what week 2 is all about, and so on. But I'm not committing that will be ready in the Q1 launch.
That's a great idea, because I don't know if we can start coaching it immediately as it is released, if we need to work on
You will be able to do that. You will be able to do that because by watching the videos by themselves, you'll understand where the changes are. And I am pretty certain, Christine, you can confirm, but I'm pretty damn certain we're going to do extensive debriefs with this launch event, right?
That, and there will be a short video series ahead of time that walks you through anything coaching specific that you need to know, as well as a coaching guide.
There you go.
One
All right.
last question.
Sneaky Michelle, get in there with your bonus question.
Rana still has a question.
Oh, Prana, go ahead. Sorry.
Last question. I was planning to write a blog about Ozempic for the website and the side effects of Ozempic. But since Ozempic is going to be allowed along with WILDFIT, then it won't be a good idea to write about the side effects of Ozempic.
Oh no, I am not pro least. I'm just using the principle of Aikido, align and redirect. I don't want to lose a client because they chose Ozempic over us. I want them to see that the choice is not Ozempic or WILDFIT. It's Ozempic. It's WILDFIT with or without Ozempic. That's the choice, right? So yeah, you can write about the side effects of it all you like. But the one thing I would say is what I don't do very often is come out really heavily against something. I'll come out with credible information about that something. Like here's a good example. You guys are all aware that I don't believe veganism to be optimal. You know that. I'm pretty open about it. But I'm not like Dave Asprey, where I'm making fun of vegans. I'm not deriding them, right? Well, I don't want to, the same thing with Ozempic. I don't want to deride it and make people feel bad about it. I want them to know, and I'll give you a good example. One of the biggest problems with Ozempic, there are many, but one of the biggest problems is a big percentage of the weight that people lose is muscle weight. That's bad. That's really bad. And so I want them to know those things, But then I want them to know that to either not do it or to do it like, look. Let's say somebody came to me, they're 38 years old woman and getting ready for their, their wedding is 4 months out. And they really have a major weight goal and they're determined to use Ozempic to get to that wedding dress size that they want. I'd be like, all right, your choice. I'm not the, you guys know WildFit's about freedom. I'm not here to say yes or no. What I would say though is that you're going to massively improve the results you get by doing it alongside WildFit, and you'll be able to come off the damn drug on your wedding night because you will have changed your behavior and you won't have the problem anymore. So that's the approach. The approach is not against it. It's like, hey, look, if you're going to do it, let's help you do it the best possible way.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, Michelle. Christine.
Cool. Thank you very much, Eric.
A bunch of people. Go ahead.
My question, first of all, I want to say, yay, that's really exciting about the debriefs and extensive, because they've been valuable. The last few challenges doing those has just been gold. That's been brilliant. But would like to know, so exactly just what we can tell our clients, because a lot of clients are like chomping at the bit to go, right, tell us what's happening with 3.0. And I know some of the alumni are keen because, of course, they're excited about the changes. So what can we sort of say to our clients? What's the official line?
Anything that I've shared with you today, other than the things that I've said are not committed.
Yeah.
I'm like, look, you want to build excitement up. You don't want to give away the game, right? It's the same with WildFit itself. We don't give away every week ahead of time. But in this case, I mean, like letting them know there's going to be meditations, letting them know there's going to be more esoteric side to it, letting them know there's going to be high-level client customization to it, letting them know that there are some new principles, there's some natural nutritional rhythms, or that the food personalities are going to be introduced there. Like there's a bunch of exciting new content. I think that's great.
Cool. And definitely Q1.
Yes, Q1.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
Guys, I want to say thank you very much. I'm super, super excited about this. I am planning on having a similar kind of call like this at some time quite soon to actually get your feedback on refinements that you guys might want to see. I know you've already shared some of that with Christine. I'll talk with Christine if a town hall is a good way to do that, or if we've already collected enough information from you. But I'm very excited about it. In the meantime, here's 2 spontaneous thoughts for you. I am on my way right now to Lisbon, where I'm going on a cruise. It's an event with a bunch of speakers on health and a variety of other things. And I just heard from them there's like 3 or 4 places left on the cruise ship. So if any of you are spontaneously wanting to go to Lisbon, write to Christine and we can get you a code for you to register. It's crazy, but I'm just telling you, there it is. There's some really great speakers that are going to be there. A really good guy named Regan, who does fantastic work with peptides and all that kind of stuff. He's a just brilliant guy. And then also Speaking Academy is coming up. And I know that many of you have done that. Some of you have it on your bucket list. I'm going to tell you, here's something I'm just giving you this now. It's a ridiculous idea, but if there's anything you can do to change your schedule to be there, you should. And there's 2 reasons. One is it will uplift everything you're doing next year. And secondly, it doesn't look like I'm doing one next year. And I just want to be clear about that now, so you don't come back and tell me, I wish I'd told you that. So if you suddenly realize that it's your time and you got to make it happen, then please reach out to Christine and she will do everything she can to make it feasible and viable for you, including helping with payment plans and all that kind of stuff. So you guys just take that inspiration as you will. I will see you on whatever our next call or event together is. And thank you guys so much. I am super excited about this, really excited to share it with you today.